The sun was setting over the vineyard, painting the sky with pinks and oranges. I stood in front of the mirror in my white dress, the lace soft against my skin. My heart felt like it was dancing. Today was my wedding day, and I was marrying James, the man who made me laugh until my sides hurt, who held my hand when I cried, who promised me forever. I looked at my reflection and smiled. This was the start of our perfect life. My best friend Sarah was behind me, fixing my veil. "You look like a princess, Lily," she said, her eyes sparkling. "James is going to lose his mind when he sees you." I giggled, my cheeks warm. "I hope so. I can't believe this is real. Me and James, married." Sarah hugged me tight. "It's real. You two are made for each other." The music started outside, a soft violin melody floating through the air. My stomach fluttered. It was time. Sarah handed me my bouquet of white roses, and we walked out of the little cottage where I'd gotten ready. The vineyard stretched out in front of us, rows of green vines under the golden light. At the end of the aisle, James stood waiting, his suit sharp and his smile brighter than the sun. I took a deep breath and started walking. Everyone turned to look at me. My mum, wiping tears from her eyes. James's little sister waving excitedly. Our friends whispering how beautiful I looked. But I only saw James. His eyes locked on mine, and I felt like I was floating. When I reached him, he took my hands, his fingers warm and steady. "You're perfect," he whispered, so only I could hear. I blushed, squeezing his hands. "So are you." The officiant started talking, but I barely heard him. I was lost in James's eyes, in the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the world. We said our vows, promising to love each other no matter what. When he slipped the ring on my finger, my heart felt so full I thought it might burst. And when the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," James pulled me close and kissed me like it was the first time. Everyone cheered, clapping and whistling, but all I could feel was him. The reception was like a dream. We danced under twinkling lights strung between the trees, the band playing our favorite songs. James spun me around, and I laughed so hard I could barely breathe. My mum hugged me, saying she'd never seen me so happy. James's dad gave a speech, joking about how James better treat me right or he'd have to answer to him. Everyone laughed, and James wrapped his arm around me, pulling me close. "I love you, Lily," he said, his voice soft in my ear. "This is just the beginning." I leaned into him, my head on his shoulder. "I love you too, forever." As the night went on, we cut the cake, feeding each other little bites and smearing frosting on each other's noses. People took pictures, and I couldn't stop smiling. My cheeks hurt, but I didn't care. This was the happiest day of my life. I kept looking at James, thinking how lucky I was. He was mine, and I was his. Later, when the party was in full swing, I stepped away to catch my breath. I walked toward the edge of the vineyard, where it was quieter, the music and laughter fading behind me. The air was cool, and I hugged my arms, still smiling. I wanted a moment to soak it all in, to remember every second of this day. That's when I saw them. In the shadows near the old oak tree, James was standing with someone. A woman. She was tall, with dark hair, wearing a red dress that clung to her like she'd planned to stand out. They were close. Too close. My stomach twisted. I took a step forward, my heart pounding. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was nothing. But then she leaned in, and he didn't pull away. They kissed. Not a quick peck, but a real kiss, the kind that says something. My bouquet slipped from my hands, the roses hitting the ground. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was caving in. This wasn't happening. Not today. Not now. I must have made a sound because James turned. His eyes met mine, and for a second he froze. The woman stepped back, looking at me like I was the one who didn't belong. James's face changed. Guilt, panic, all of it written there plain as day. "Lily," he said, taking a step toward me. "It's not what you think." My voice came out small, shaky. "Not what I think. I saw you, James. I saw you kiss her." He ran a hand through his hair, his eyes darting to the woman, then back to me. "It was a mistake. I swear, it didn't mean anything." The woman smirked, crossing her arms. "Tell her the truth, James." I looked at her, then at him. "The truth? What's she talking about?" James opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His silence was louder than any words. My eyes burned, tears spilling over. I wanted to scream, to run, to make this all disappear. But I just stood there, my dress heavy now, the lace scratching my skin. "How could you?" I whispered. "On our wedding night." "Lily, please," he said, reaching for me. I stepped back, shaking my head. "Don't touch me." The music was still playing in the distance. People laughing, clinking glasses, celebrating a love that was already broken. I turned and walked away, my heels sinking into the grass. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay there. Not with him. Not with her. Sarah found me later, sitting on a bench near the cottage, my face streaked with tears. She didn't say anything, just sat beside me and held my hand. I looked at her, my voice barely a whisper. "He cheated, Sarah. On our wedding night." Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "That jerk. What do you want to do?" I wiped my eyes, my sadness turning hard, like a stone in my chest. James had taken my heart and crushed it. But I wasn't going to let him take everything. He had money, a fortune he loved to flaunt. If he thought he could hurt me and walk away, he was wrong. "I'm going to make him pay," I said, Ilton, my voice steady now. "He's going to lose everything." Sarah nodded, squeezing my hand. "I'm with you, whatever it takes." The vineyard was quiet now, the party winding down. But inside me, something new was starting. Not love, not anymore. This was anger, sharp and clear. James had betrayed me, but I wasn't going to break. I was going to fight. The morning after our engagement party, I woke up with a smile that wouldn't quit. My ring sparkled on my finger, catching the sunlight streaming through the bedroom window. James had proposed last night, down on one knee in front of all our friends and family, and I'd said yes through happy tears. Everyone cheered and we danced until midnight. It was perfect. But as I lay in bed, replaying every moment, a tiny knot formed in my stomach. Something about last night didn't feel right. I got up, pulled on a sweater, and headed to the kitchen. James was already there, making coffee, his hair still messy from sleep. He looked up and grinned when he saw me. "Morning, fiancé," he said, his voice warm. I smiled back, but that knot in my stomach tightened. "Morning," I said, grabbing a mug. "Last night was amazing, wasn't it?" "The best," he said, standing to wrap his arms around me. "You look so beautiful, Lily. I'm the luckiest guy alive." His words made my heart flutter, but I couldn't shake the feeling. I leaned into him, trying to push it away. "Everyone was so happy for us," I said. "My mum wouldn't stop crying." He laughed, kissing my forehead. "Yeah, she's going to be planning our wedding by lunch." We sat at the table, sipping coffee and talking about the party. How his cousin got too drunk and sang karaoke. How my dad gave a speech that made everyone tear up. But as we talked, I kept thinking about last night. About the moment that stuck in my head like a splinter. It was during the party, when the room was loud with music and laughter. I'd been dancing with Sarah, my best friend, when I looked across the room and saw James. He was standing by the bar, talking to a woman I didn't know. She was tall, with sleek black hair and a tight dress. They were close, their heads bent together like they were sharing a secret. I didn't think much of it at first. James is friendly, always chatting with people. But then I saw his eyes. He glanced at her, quick and sharp, like he was hiding something. It wasn't the way he looked at me, all soft and open. It was different, guarded, like he was afraid of being caught. I tried to brush it off. It was a party. People talk. People laugh. But that glance stayed with me, replaying in my mind as I watched him now, stirring sugar into his coffee. "Lily, you okay?" James's voice snapped me back. He was looking at me, his brow furrowed. "Yeah, I'm fine," I said quickly, forcing a smile. "Just tired, I guess." He reached for my hand, his thumb brushing my ring. "You sure? You seem quiet." I hesitated. I didn't want to sound crazy or jealous. It was just a look, right? But I couldn't let it go. "Last night," I started, my voice soft, "I saw you talking to someone. At the bar. A woman in a black dress." His hand stiffened, just for a second, before he let go and leaned back in his chair. "Oh, yeah? I talked to a lot of people last night," he said, his tone light. But his eyes flicked away, down to his mug, and my heart sank. "She seemed friendly," I said, watching him closely. "Who was she?" He shrugged, taking a sip of coffee. "I don't know. Some friend of my coworker, I think. We were just chatting." "About what?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. He looked at me then, his smile fading. "Lily, what's this about? You're acting like I did something wrong." "I'm not," I said, but my cheeks burned. I saw the way you looked at her. It felt off." He laughed, but it sounded forced. "Off? Come on, it was a party. I was probably just drunk and happy. You're reading too much into it." Maybe he was right. Maybe I was being paranoid. But that laugh, that quick glance away, it was the same look I'd seen last night. My stomach churned. "James," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "if there's something going on, just tell me. Please." He stood up, running a hand through his hair. "There's nothing going on, Lily. I love you. I proposed to you, remember? Why are you doing this?" "I don't know," I admitted, my eyes stinging. "I just have this feeling, like you're not telling me everything." He sighed, walking to the sink and setting his mug down hard. "You're making something out of nothing. I'm not hiding anything. Can we just enjoy being engaged for one day?" His words stung, like I was the one being unreasonable. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to go back to last night, to the moment he slipped the ring on my finger and everything felt perfect. But that glance, that tiny crack in his story, wouldn't let me. "Okay," I said finally, standing up. "I'm sorry. I love you, and I want us to be honest." "I am being honest," he said. But he didn't look at me. He busied himself rinsing his mug, his back to me. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. "I'm going to take a shower," I said, my voice small. I left the kitchen, my heart heavy. As I walked down the hall, I heard him mutter something under his breath, too quiet to make out. It sounded like frustration, maybe guilt. In the bathroom, I locked the door and leaned against it, tears slipping down my cheeks. I looked at my ring, sparkling like a promise. I loved James. I wanted our life together, our wedding, our future. But that glance, that tiny betrayal in his eyes, was a seed of doubt. And I couldn't shake the feeling that it would grow. I thought about calling Sarah, telling her everything. She'd know what to do, how to make sense of this. But part of me was afraid. Afraid she'd tell me I was overreacting, or worse, that I wasn't. That this was just the beginning of something bigger, something that could break me. I wiped my eyes and turned on the shower, letting the sound drown out my thoughts. James was my fiancé, my partner. I had to trust him. But as I stepped under the water, I made a promise to myself. I'd watch him. I'd listen. And if that doubt turned into truth, I wouldn't let it destroy me. James had money, power, a life he thought was untouchable. If he was lying, if he was betraying me, I'd make sure he lost it all. The reception was winding down, but my heart was still racing from the day. I stood by the dance floor, my white dress swaying as I watched our friends laugh and sway to the music. James, my new husband, had just spun me around, his smile making me feel like I was floating. We'd said our vows, cut the cake, and danced our first dance under the vineyard's twinkling lights. This was our wedding night, the start of our forever. I was so happy I could barely stand it. I scanned the crowd for James. He'd said he was grabbing a drink, but that was a while ago. My eyes landed on Sarah, my best friend, chatting with my mum. I waved at her and she hurried over, her face tight with worry. My stomach dropped. Sarah always smiled. Always. Something was wrong. "Lily," she said, her voice low. "We need to talk. Now." "What's going on?" I asked, my smile fading. The music felt too loud, the lights too bright. She grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the edge of the vineyard, away from the party. The air was cool and the laughter behind us faded. "I saw something," she said, her eyes searching mine. "I didn't want to ruin your day, but you need to know." My heart pounded. "Know what?" "Sarah, just tell me." She took a deep breath, like she was bracing herself. "It's James. I saw him with someone. A woman. They were together." I froze, her words hitting me like a slap. "Together? What do you mean, together?" Sarah's face crumpled, like she hated saying it. "I was looking for the bathroom, and I saw them behind the barn. They were kissing, Lily. Like, really kissing. I'm so sorry." The world tilted. My dress felt heavy, the lace scratching my skin. "No," I whispered. "You're wrong. It's our wedding night. He wouldn't." "I wish I was wrong," she said, her voice breaking. "But I know what I saw. It was him, and she was wearing a red dress. I didn't know her. A red dress. My mind flashed to earlier, when I'd seen a woman in a red dress laughing with James's cousin. She'd stood out, her smile sharp and her eyes bold. I'd thought nothing of it then, but now it felt like a knife in my chest. "I need to see him," I said, my voice shaking. I turned and marched back toward the party, my heels sinking into the grass. Sarah followed, calling my name, but I didn't stop. I had to find James. I had to hear him say it wasn't true. The crowd parted as I pushed through, my eyes scanning every face. My mum saw me and frowned, but I didn't stop to explain. Then I saw him, standing near the bar, holding a glass of whiskey. He was laughing, his tie loose, like nothing was wrong, like he hadn't just shattered my world. "James!" I called, my voice cutting through the noise. Heads turned, but I didn't care. He looked up, and his smile faltered when he saw my face. "Lily, what's wrong?" he asked, setting his glass down. I stopped in front of him, my hands shaking. "Is it true?" I asked, my voice loud enough for people nearby to go quiet. "Were you kissing someone else? Tonight?" His eyes widened, and for a second he didn't say anything. That silence was worse than any answer. "What are you talking about?" he said finally, his voice too smooth. "Who told you that?" "Sarah saw you," I said, tears burning my eyes. "Behind the barn, with a woman in a red dress. Tell me she's lying." He glanced around like he was looking for a way out. People were staring now, their whispers like static in my ears. "Lily, this is crazy," he said, stepping closer. "I didn't do anything. Sarah must have made a mistake." "Don't lie to me," I shouted, my voice breaking. "Just tell me the truth, James. Did you kiss her?" He ran a hand through his hair, his jaw tight. "It wasn't like that," he said, his voice low. "It was nothing. A stupid moment. It didn't mean anything." My breath caught, like I'd been punched. "A stupid moment," I repeated, tears spilling down my cheeks. "On our wedding night? You're my husband." "Lily, please," he said, reaching for me. "I love you. It was a mistake. I swear, it won't happen again." I stepped back, shaking my head. "Don't touch me," I said, my voice cold. "You promised me forever, and you couldn't even make it one night." The woman in the red dress appeared behind him, her arms crossed, her lips curled in a smirk. "Trouble in paradise already?" she said, her voice sharp. I turned on her, my anger boiling over. "Who are you?" I demanded. "Why were you with my husband?" She raised an eyebrow, unbothered. "Ask him," she said, nodding at James. "He's the one who couldn't keep his hands to himself." James's face went red. "Shut up, Vanessa," he snapped. But she just laughed. Vanessa. Her name burned into my mind. I looked at James, waiting for him to deny it, to say something that would make this okay. But he just stood there, his eyes on the ground, guilt written all over him. My tears stopped, replaced by something hard and sharp. I'd trusted him, loved him, given him everything, and he'd thrown it away for her, for nothing. "I'm done," I said, my voice steady now. I pulled off my wedding ring and threw it at his feet. It hit the ground with a soft clink, and the crowd gasped. "You don't get to hurt me and walk away like it's nothing." "Lily, wait," he said, his voice desperate. "We can fix this, please." "There's nothing to fix," I said, turning away. I walked through the crowd, their eyes on me, but I didn't care. Sarah was at my side in an instant, her arm around me. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft. "No," I said, my throat tight. "But I will be." We kept walking, leaving the party behind. My heart was broken, but my mind was clear. James had money, a fortune he thought made him untouchable. He thought he could cheat, and I'd just take it. He was wrong. I'd make him pay, not just for tonight, but for every lie, every betrayal. I'd take everything he had, and he'd be the one left with nothing. As we reached the parking lot, Sarah squeezed my hand. "What now?" she asked. I looked back at the vineyard, the lights still glowing, the music still playing. "Now," I said, my voice firm. "I fight back." The vineyard was quiet now, the music and laughter from the reception long gone. I sat alone on a wooden bench near the cottage where I'd gotten ready just hours ago, my wedding dress crumpled and heavy around me. The air was cold, biting at my bare arms, but I didn't care. My heart was heavier than the dress, heavier than the night. James, my husband of one day, had cheated. I'd seen him with her, a woman in a red dress, kissing in the shadows on our wedding night. The image burned in my mind, and every time I closed my eyes, it was all I could see. I hugged my arms, trying to hold myself together. The tears had stopped, but my chest ached like someone had carved it open. This morning, I'd woken up dreaming of our life together. Our house, our kids, our adventures. Now those dreams were gone, shattered like glass. I was alone, and the darkness around me felt like it was swallowing me whole. I heard footsteps on the grass and looked up. Sarah, my best friend, was walking toward me, her face soft with worry. She'd been with me when I confronted James, when I threw my ring at his feet and walked away. She sat beside me without a word, her shoulder brushing mine. For a while, we just sat there, the silence loud with everything I couldn't say. "You okay?" she finally asked, her voice gentle. I shook my head, staring at the ground. "Number, I don't think I'll ever be okay again." She reached for my hand, squeezing it. "You will. Not tonight, but you will. You're stronger than this, Lily." I let out a bitter laugh. "Strong? I feel like I'm falling apart. He was my everything, Sarah. And he threw it all away. On our wedding night." Her jaw tightened. "He's a jerk. He doesn't deserve you." I looked at her, my eyes stinging again. "Then why does it hurt so much? Why do I still love him, even after what he did?" Sarah's face softened, and she pulled me into a hug. "Because you're human. You loved him with your whole heart. But that love, it's yours, not his. He doesn't get to keep it." I buried my face in her shoulder, my body shaking with quiet sobs. She held me tight, letting me cry until I had nothing left. When I finally pulled back, my face was streaked with mascara, and my throat was raw. "What do I do now?" I whispered. "I don't even know where to start." Sarah wiped a tear from my cheek. "You start by taking care of you. You don't have to figure it all out tonight. But you're not alone, okay? I'm here. Your mum's here. We've got you." I nodded, but the emptiness inside me didn't budge. I looked out at the vineyard, the rows of vines stretching into the dark. Just hours ago, I'd walked down the aisle here, my heart full of hope. Now I felt like a stranger in my own life. "I trusted him," I said, my voice small. "I thought he was my forever." "I know," Sarah said, her voice steady. "But he showed you who he is. And you don't need someone like that. You're gonna build something better, Lily. Something real." I wanted to believe her, but all I could feel was the ache. I thought about James, about his smile, his promises, the way he'd looked at me when we said our vows. Had it all been a lie? Or had he just stopped caring the second someone else caught his eye? The questions swirled in my head, each one cutting deeper. "I saw her, you know," I said, my voice flat. "The woman in the red dress, Vanessa. She looked at me like I was nothing, like she'd won Sarah's eyes narrowed. She didn't win anything. She's just pathetic. And so is he. They deserve it, each other." "Maybe," I said, but it didn't make me feel better. I kept seeing Vanessa's smirk, James's guilty face, the way he'd tried to brush it off like it was no big deal. A mistake, he'd called it. A mistake that broke my heart. I stood up, my legs shaky, and walked a few steps toward the cottage. My bouquet was still on the ground where I'd dropped it, the white roses crushed and dirty. I stared at them, my hands clenching into fists. "He thinks he can just move on," I said, my voice growing harder. "He thinks he can hurt me and keep his perfect life, his money, his fancy cars, his big house. Like I don't matter. Sarah stood beside me, her eyes fierce. Then show him he's wrong. Make him pay, Lily. Not just for you, but for every woman he thinks he can walk over. I turned to her, my sadness shifting into something else, something sharp and burning. How? I asked. He's got everything. Lawyers, connections, power. Sarah grinned, a spark in her eyes. You're smart. You know him better than anyone. You know his weaknesses. Use them. Take what's yours. I thought about James's fortune, the millions he flaunted like a shield. He'd always said it was our future, but now I saw it for what it was. His pride, his armor. If I could take it, strip it away, he'd have nothing left. The idea lit a fire in me, small but growing. I don't know how yet, I said, my voice steady for the first time all night. But I'm not letting him win. Not after this. Sarah nodded, slinging an arm around my shoulders. That's my girl. We'll figure it out together. I looked back at the vineyard, the place where my dreams had died. The darkness didn't feel so heavy anymore. It was still there, pressing in, but I wasn't alone. And I wasn't broken. Not completely. James had taken my trust, my love, my heart. But he hadn't taken my fight. I'd rebuild, piece by piece, and when I was done, he'd be the one left in the dark. Let's go, I said, turning towards the parking lot. I'm ready to start. Sarah smiled, keeping pace beside me. Where to? Anywhere but here, I said, my steps firm. I've got a score to settle. I sat in Sarah's small apartment, the city lights flickering through the window. It had been 2 weeks since my wedding night, since I saw James kissing Vanessa in the vineyard shadows. My heart still ached, but the pain was different now, sharper, like a blade I could wield. I wasn't the same Lily who cried on that bench, broken and lost. I was angry, and that anger was building something inside me. A plan. Sarah handed me a mug of tea, her eyes watching me closely. You've been quiet all day, she said, sitting across from me on the couch. What's going on in that head of yours? I stared into the steam rising from my mug, my fingers tight around the handle. I'm thinking about James, I said, my voice low. About how he thinks he can just move on, keep his perfect life, his money, everything. Like I was nothing. Sarah leaned forward, her jaw tight. He's wrong. You're not nothing. So, what are you going to do about it? I looked up, meeting her eyes. I'm going to take his fortune. Every cent he loves so much. But I need to be smart. He's got lawyers, accountants, people who protect his money. I can't just walk in and demand it. She nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. Okay, so, you're plotting. I like it. Where do you start? I set the mug down and pulled out a notebook from my bag. I'd been scribbling in it for days, ideas and questions, bits of things I remembered about James's business. He's not as careful as he thinks, I said, flipping to a page covered in my messy handwriting. He used to talk about his company all the time. Deals, investments, accounts. I listened even when I didn't care. I know things. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Like what? Like how he brags about hiding money, I said, my voice steady. He's got offshore accounts, places he thinks no one can find. He told me once laughing, like it was a game. Said it was insurance in case things went wrong. I didn't think much of it then, but now, it's a weak spot. Sarah's eyes widened. You're saying he's dodging taxes or something? That's big, Lily. If you can prove it, you could ruin him. Exactly, I said, my heart beating faster. If I can find proof, documents, bank records, anything, I can use it. Maybe not to get the money myself, but to make sure he loses it. The IRS doesn't mess around. Neither do his investors. She leaned back, whistling softly. You're scary when you're mad. But how do you get that proof? You can't just walk into his office. I chewed my lip, thinking. I still have access to some things. His laptop. He used to leave it at my place all the time. I know his passwords. He never thought I was paying attention, but I was. If I can get into his accounts, I might find something. Sarah frowned. That's risky. If he catches you, he'll know you're up to something. I know, I said, my stomach twisting. That's why I have to be careful. No one can know what I'm doing. Not him. Not his family. Not even my mom. She'd tell me to let it go, to move on. But I can't. Not yet. Sarah reached over and squeezed my hand. You don't have to do this alone. I'm in, whatever you need. But you gotta promise me you'll be safe. I nodded, my throat tight. I will, I need to do this, Sarah. He took everything from me. My trust, my dreams. I won't let him keep his. We sat there for hours, talking through ideas. I wrote down everything I could remember about James's business, names of his partners, companies he worked with, even the accountant he always complained about. Sarah suggested looking into his emails, maybe finding a way to get into his office. It felt overwhelming, like I was staring at a mountain I had to climb. But every step I planned, every idea I wrote down, made me feel stronger. Like I was taking back a piece of myself. Later, when Sarah went to bed, I stayed up, my notebook open in front of me. The apartment was quiet, just the hum of the fridge and the distant sound of traffic. I stared at my notes, my mind racing. James thought he was untouchable, with his money and his charm. He thought I'd just disappear, cry for a while, and let him win. He was wrong. I thought about the life we'd planned. Our house by the lake, the kids we'd talked about, the trips we'd dreamed of. It was all a lie, built on his promises. But I wasn't the one who'd broken those promises. He did. And now he'd pay for it. I flipped to a new page and started a list. Step 1. Get into his laptop. Step 2. Find his bank records. Step 3. Figure out who could help me use them. I didn't know all the answers yet, but I'd find them. I'd learn. I'd be patient, quiet, invisible, until the moment I struck. As the clock ticked past midnight, I closed the notebook and leaned back. Exhaustion settling in. My heart still hurt, but it wasn't just pain anymore. It was purpose. James had shattered my world, but I was rebuilding it, piece by piece. And when I was done, he'd be the one left with nothing. I stood up, stretching my arms, and looked out the window. The city was dark, but there were lights out there, small and steady, like me. I wasn't done yet. This was just the beginning. The coffee shop was crowded, the air thick with the smell of espresso and warm pastries. I sat in a corner booth, my hands wrapped around a latte, waiting. Sarah was next to me, scrolling on her phone, but I could tell she was nervous. We were about to take a big step, one that could make or break my plan to take down James. I'd spent weeks plotting in silence, gathering bits of information about his hidden accounts, but I needed help. People who knew more than I did. People I could trust. The door swung open and a man walked in, his coat dusted with rain. He was older, maybe in his 50s, with sharp eyes and a briefcase tucked under his arm. Ethan, a private investigator Sarah's cousin had recommended. I'd hesitated to bring in a stranger, but Sarah swore he was good, discreet, tough, and no friend of men like James. That's him, Sarah whispered, nudging me. I nodded, my stomach twisting. Okay, let's do this. Ethan spotted us and walked over, sliding into the booth. Lily, right? He said, his voice low but friendly. And Sarah? Yeah, I said, trying to sound confident. Thanks for meeting us. He set his briefcase down and leaned forward, his eyes scanning the room before settling on me. I hear you've got a problem with your husband. Want to tell me about it? I took a deep breath, glancing at Sarah. She gave me a small nod, and I started talking. James cheated on me. On our wedding night. I caught him with another woman, and I'm done with him. But he's got money. Lots of it. And I want to make sure he loses it. He thinks he's untouchable. But I know he's hiding things. Offshore accounts, shady deals. I need help to prove it. Ethan listened, his face calm but focused. When I finished, he tapped his fingers on the table. That's a tall order. Taking down someone with that kind of wealth isn't easy. You got anything solid to start with? I pulled out my notebook and slid it across the table. This is everything I know. Names, companies, some account, numbers I remembered. It's not much, but it's a start. He flipped through the pages, his eyebrows raising slightly. You've been busy. This is more than most people start with. But you're right, it's not enough. We need hard evidence. Documents, emails, transactions. You said you know his passwords? Yeah, I said, my cheeks warming. He was careless. Left his laptop open, used the same passwords for everything. I can get into his email, maybe his cloud storage. Ethan nodded, closing the notebook. That's a good start. But you can't do it alone. If he's as connected as you say, he'll have people watching his accounts. You need someone who knows how to dig without getting caught. That's where you come in, Sarah said, leaning forward. Can you do it? Ethan smiled, a little sharp. I can, but it's not cheap, and it's not quick. You're talking about financial records, maybe international banks. That takes time, contacts, and a lot of caution. I don't care about the cost, I said, my voice firm. I'll find a way to pay. I just need to know you're on my side. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. All right, Lily, I'm in. But we do this my way. No rushing, no mistakes. If we're gonna bring him down, we do it clean. Relief washed over me, but it was mixed with nerves. This was real now. I was building a team, taking steps I couldn't undo. Thank you, I said, my voice softer. I mean it. Ethan stood, tucking the notebook into his briefcase. I'll start with what you gave me. Stay low, don't talk to anyone about this. I'll call you in a few days. As he left, Sarah let out a breath. That went better than I thought. He's intense, but he seems legit. Yeah, I said, staring at my latte. But we're not done. I need more than just Ethan. Sarah tilted her head. What do you mean? I leaned closer, keeping my voice low. James's world is bigger than just money. He's got friends, partners, people who prop him up. If I'm going to hit him hard, I need someone on the inside. Someone who knows his business, his secrets. Sarah's eyes widened. You're talking about turning one of his people? That's bold, Lily. I know, I said, my heart racing. But I have someone in mind. His assistant, Claire. She's been with him for years, but he treats her like dirt. I've seen it. Yelling at her, blaming her for his mistakes. If I can get her to talk, she might know things even I don't. Sarah grinned. You're playing chess while he's playing checkers. How do you get to her? I'll start small. I said, thinking it through. Reach out, act like I'm checking in. She always liked me. If I can build trust, maybe she'll help. We finished our coffee and left the shop, the rain cold against my skin. As we walked, I felt a shift inside me. I wasn't just plotting anymore. I was moving, building something unstoppable. Ethan was my first ally, but he wouldn't be the last. Claire could be next, and maybe others. James had built his empire on lies, but I was building something stronger. A team. A purpose. That night, I sat at Sarah's kitchen table, drafting a message to Claire. "Hey, it's Lily," I typed. "I know things are weird, but I was thinking about you. Can we grab coffee sometime?" My finger hovered over the send button, my heart pounding. This was a risk, but it was worth it. I hit send and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. James thought he'd broken me, but he'd only made me dangerous. With Ethan, Sarah, and maybe Claire, I was ready to fight. And I wouldn't stop until his fortune, his pride, was mine. The office was small, tucked in a run-down building downtown, but it felt like a war room. Papers were spread across the table, laptops hummed, and Ethan's voice was steady as he pointed at a spreadsheet. It had been a month since I'd hired him, and my plan to take James's fortune was no longer just a dream. It was happening. Claire, James's assistant, had joined us, and together we were unraveling his empire, piece by piece. Claire pushed her glasses up, her fingers trembling slightly as she handed me a USB drive. "This is everything I could get," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "Emails, bank statements, contracts. He didn't even notice I was copying them. He's too busy. With her. Her. Vanessa. The woman in the red dress who'd kissed James on our wedding night." I clenched the USB drive, my anger flaring. "Thank you, Claire," I said, keeping my voice calm. "This is huge." She nodded, her eyes flicking to Ethan. "Just make sure he doesn't know it was me. If he finds out, I'm done." "He won't," Ethan said, his tone sharp. "We're careful. You did good." I looked at the spreadsheet on Ethan's laptop. Rows of numbers, account names, dates. It was proof of James's offshore accounts, the ones he'd bragged about hiding. Ethan had tracked them to a bank in the Cayman Islands, and Claire's files filled in the gaps. Transfers, fake companies, even emails where James laughed about dodging taxes. It was enough to bury him. "So what's next?" Sarah asked, leaning against the wall. She'd been my rock, keeping me grounded when the anger or pain got too heavy. Ethan closed his laptop, his eyes on me. "We take this to the right people. The IRS, maybe the SEC. They'll tear his accounts apart. His investors will panic. His deals will collapse. He'll lose everything. His money, his reputation, his power." I nodded, my heart pounding. This was it, the moment I'd been working toward. But it wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about justice. James had betrayed me, humiliated me, and now I was fighting back. "How do we do it without getting caught?" I asked. Ethan leaned back, his fingers drumming on the table. "We leak it. Anonymously. I know people who can get this to the feds without tracing it back to us. But once it's out, there's no stopping it. You sure you're ready?" I thought about James, about his smug smile, his lies, the way he'd looked at Vanessa, like she was the only one in the room. I thought about our wedding, the vows he'd broken before the night was over. "I'm ready," I said, my voice steady. "Let's do it." Claire shifted in her seat, her face pale. "What happens to me? If his company goes down, I lose my job." I reached across the table, touching her hand. You'll be okay, Claire. We'll help you find something else. You're not just doing this for me. You're doing it for you. He treated you like garbage. You deserve better. She gave me a small smile, her shoulders relaxing. Yeah, I guess I do. Sarah clapped her hands, grinning. Look at us, taking down the bad guy. It's like a movie. Ethan snorted. A movie where we don't get caught. Let's keep it that way. We spent the next hour planning the leak. Ethan would send the files through a secure server, making sure they couldn't be traced. Claire would stay in her job, acting normal, feeding us any new information. Sarah and I would keep our heads down, pretending everything was fine. It was risky, but it felt right, like I was finally in control. As we packed up, I looked at the USB drive in my hand. It was small, but it held James's secrets, his lies, his downfall. I slipped it into my pocket, my resolve hardening. He'd thought I was weak, someone he could hurt and forget. Now I was the one with the power. That night, I sat alone in Sarah's apartment, staring at my phone. James had texted me a few times since the wedding, apologies and excuses, but I hadn't answered. Tonight, though, I felt bold. I typed a message. I hope you're happy with her. Enjoy it while it lasts. I hit send before I could overthink it, my heart racing. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. Lily, please, can we talk? I messed up, but I love you. I stared at his words, my anger boiling. He didn't love me. He loved his life, his money, his control. Soon, he'd have none of it. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my notebook, flipping to the list I'd started weeks ago. Step 1, get proof. Step 2, find allies. Step 3, strip his wealth. We were on step 3 now, and it felt good. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was winning. As I closed the notebook, I thought about the future. Not the one I'd planned with James, but a new one. One where I was free, strong, unbroken. He'd tried to destroy me, but I was destroying him instead. And I wasn't done yet. The conference room was cold, the glass walls reflecting the city skyline. I stood at the head of the table, my hands steady despite the storm inside me. Today was the day I faced James, not as his wife, but as his enemy. The leak had worked. Ethan's contacts had sent the evidence to the IRS Gammas and the SEC. And James's empire was crumbling. His accounts were frozen, his investors were pulling out, and the news was everywhere. He'd called me, begging to meet, claiming he could explain. I agreed, but not for him. For me. Sarah stood by the door, her arms crossed, ready to back me up. Ethan was there too. His briefcase open, papers ready if we needed them. Claire had stayed away, safer that way, but her work was in every file we had. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It was ours. The door opened and James walked in. His suit wrinkled, his eyes tired. He looked smaller than I remembered, like the weight of his lies had finally caught up. Vanessa was with him. Her red lipstick bold, but her confidence was gone. She avoided my eyes, clutching her purse like a shield. Lily, James said, his voice rough. Thank you for coming. Can we talk? Alone. I shook my head, my voice calm but firm. Number, they stay. You don't get to control this. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Fine. Look, I know things are bad. The news, the investigations. It's a mess. But I didn't do anything wrong. It's all a misunderstanding. I laughed, sharp and cold. A misunderstanding? You hid millions in offshore accounts, James. You lied to the government, your investors, me. That's not a misunderstanding. That's who you are. His face hardened, but his eyes flicked to Vanessa, nervous. You don't know what you're talking about. You're upset about us. About her. He gestured to Vanessa, who flinched. Don't make this about her, I said, stepping closer. This is about you. You cheated on our wedding night. You broke every promise you made. And then you thought you could keep lying, keep hiding, like I'd just go away. Vanessa spoke up, her voice sharp. You're pathetic, Lily. Clinging to your little revenge fantasy. James doesn't want you. He never did. Sarah took a step forward, but I held up a hand, stopping her. I looked at Vanessa, my anger burning but controlled. You're not worth my time, I said. You're just a distraction. He used you, just like he used me. But I'm not the one losing everything. James's face went pale. What did you do, Lily? The leak. Was that you? I smiled, small and steady. You're smart, James. Figure it out. He slammed his hand on the table, his voice rising. You're ruining my life. Everything I built, everything I worked for, it's gone because of you. No, I said. My voice like steel. It's gone because of you. You built your life on lies. I just showed everyone the truth. Ethan opened his briefcase, pulling out a folder. These are copies of your emails, he said, sliding them across the table. Your bank records, your fake companies. The feds have the originals. You're done, James. James stared at the papers, his hands shaking. You set me up, he whispered. You betrayed me. I leaned forward, my eyes locked on his. You betrayed me first. On our wedding night. You don't get to play the victim. Vanessa grabbed his arm, her voice shrill. Do something, James. She can't get away with this. He shook her off, his eyes still on me. Lily, please. I'll do anything. I'll give you half, more than half. Just call it off. We can fix this. I shook my head, my heart calm for the first time in months. There's nothing to fix. You made your choices. Now live with them. I turned to leave, Sarah and Ethan following. James called after me, his voice desperate. Lily, wait. I'm sorry. I love you. I stopped, my hand on the door, but I didn't turn around. You don't know what love is, I said, and walked out. In the elevator, Sarah hugged me, her voice proud. You were amazing. He's got nothing left. Ethan nodded, closing his briefcase. The feds will take it from here. He's looking at audits, maybe jail. You did it, Lily. I leaned against the wall, exhaustion hitting me. I'd faced James, looked into his eyes, and won. But it didn't feel like victory. Not yet. It felt like the end of something, and the start of something else. I wasn't sure what, but I was ready to find out. The news broke on a Tuesday morning, and it felt like the world stopped. I was at Sarah's apartment, my coffee going cold as I stared at the TV. The anchor's voice was crisp, her words cutting through the air. Millionaire! James Hamilton faces federal charges for tax evasion and fraud. Authorities have uncovered offshore accounts and falsified records, leading to the collapse of his investment firm. A picture of James flashed on the screen, his face pale, his tie crooked as he left a courthouse. I didn't smile, but something inside me settled, like a weight lifting. Sarah burst into the room, her phone in hand. Lily, it's everywhere. X, the news, everywhere. They're tearing him apart. I nodded, my eyes still on the screen. It worked. Ethan's leak, Claire's files. It all worked. She flopped onto the couch, grinning. You did it. You actually took him down. How do you feel? I thought about it, searching for the right words. Relieved, I said finally. And empty, like I've been running toward this for so long, and now it's here. And I don't know what's next. Sarah's smile softened. You'll figure it out. You always do. My phone buzzed, and I glanced at it. A text from Claire. It's over. He knows it was me. I'm scared, but I'm free. My heart clenched. Claire had risked everything to help me, and now she was in the open, vulnerable. I texted back. You're not alone. Come to Sarah's. We'll keep you safe. An hour later, Claire was at the door, her face pale, but her eyes bright. They fired me, she said, stepping inside. James screamed at me, called me a traitor. But I don't care. Seeing him lose it all, it was worth it. I hugged her, my voice soft. You were brave, Claire. Thank you. She pulled back, smiling faintly. You gave me the push. I was stuck, letting him walk all over me. Not anymore. We sat around Sarah's kitchen table, the TV still on in the background. The news kept cycling through James's story, showing clips of his investors shouting. Outside his office, his lawyer dodging questions. Then a new headline flashed. Hamilton's mistress implicated in scandal. A photo of Vanessa appeared, her face tight as she pushed past reporters. Sarah laughed, pointing at the screen. Oh, she's not getting out of this clean. Look at her. I watched, my anger stirring. Vanessa had been part of James's lies, his betrayal. She'd smirked at me on our wedding night, acting like she'd won. Now she was caught in his mess, her name dragged through the mud. It felt right, but it didn't heal the hurt. There's more, Claire said, pulling a folder from her bag. I found this before I left. It's not just about the money. James was bribing people, politicians, regulators. If this gets out, he's not just broke. He's in prison for years. I took the folder, my hands steady. This is the final nail, I said. Ethan will know what to do with it. Sarah leaned forward, her eyes wide. You're not stopping, are you? No, I said, my voice firm. He doesn't get to walk away. Not after everything. We called Ethan, and he came over. His face grim, but satisfied as he read through Claire's folder. This is dynamite, he said. Bribery, corruption. It's worse than we thought. I'll get it to the feds, same as before. They'll bury him. As Ethan left to make the calls, I stepped onto Sarah's balcony, the city sprawling below. The air was cool, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. James's ruin was complete. His money gone, his name destroyed, his freedom on the line. I'd done it, with Sarah, Ethan, and Claire. But the victory felt heavy, like it came at a cost I hadn't expected. I thought about the girl I'd been, the one who loved James, who dreamed of a life with him. She was gone, replaced by someone harder, stronger. I didn't regret it, but I missed her sometimes. The pain of his betrayal still lingered, a scar that would never fully fade. Sarah joined me, leaning on the railing. You okay? Yeah, I said, my voice quiet. Just thinking about what's next. He's done, but I'm still here. I need to figure out who I am without him. She nodded, her voice soft. You're Lily. You're tough, smart, and you don't give up. You'll find your way. I smiled, small but real. James's secrets were out, his world in ruins. I'd won, but the fight wasn't over. I had a new battle now, to rebuild, to find joy, to live. And I was ready. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension. I sat in the back, my hands folded in my lap, watching as James stood before the judge. His suit was sharp, but his face was drawn, his confidence gone. The charges, tax evasion, fraud, bribery, had piled up. And today was his sentencing. I didn't need to be here, but I wanted to. I needed to see the end, to know it was real. Sarah was next to me, her hand on mine. "You sure you want to do this?" she whispered. "You don't owe him anything." "I know," I said, my voice steady. "But this isn't for him. It's for me." The judge's voice echoed through the room, listing James's crimes. Each word felt like a brick, building a wall between the life I'd had and the one I was creating. When she said, 7 years in federal prison, the room buzzed, but I stayed still. James's head dropped, his shoulders sagging. Vanessa wasn't there. She'd taken a plea deal, spilling everything to save herself. It didn't matter. She was his past, not mine. As the bailiff led James away, he looked back, his eyes finding mine. For a moment, I saw the man I'd loved, the one who'd promised me forever. But that man was a lie. I didn't look away, didn't flinch. I just watched, my heart quiet, until he was gone. Outside the air was crisp, the sky bright. Sarah linked her arm with mine, grinning. "It's over, Lily. You won." I nodded, a small smile breaking through. "Yeah, I did." We walked to a nearby cafe, meeting Claire and Ethan for lunch. Claire was starting a new job, her face brighter than I'd ever seen. Ethan was already on another case, but he'd made time for this. We sat around a small table, laughing and talking, the weight of the past months lifting with every word. "You're a legend," Claire said, raising her glass of iced tea. "I mean it. You took down James Hamilton. People are talking about you." I laughed, shaking my head. "I don't want to be a legend. I just want to be me." Ethan leaned back, his eyes warm. "You're more than you think, Lily. You didn't just take his money. You took his power. That's rare." I looked around the table, at the people who'd helped me fight. Sarah with her fierce loyalty, Claire with her quiet courage, Ethan with his sharp mind. They'd been my strength when I had none, my family when I felt alone. "I couldn't have done it without you," I said, my voice soft. "Thank you." Sarah waved a hand, grinning. "Don't get sappy on us. We've got more to celebrate. Like your new place." I smiled, thinking about the apartment I'd just signed a lease for. It was small, nothing like the mansion James had promised. But it was mine. I'd furnished it with my own money, earned from a job I'd started at a local non-profit. It wasn't much, but it was a start, a life I was building on my terms. As we ate, I thought about the journey here. The wedding night, the betrayal, the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, the plotting, the risks, the moment I faced James and saw his world collapse. It had changed me, made me harder but also stronger. I wasn't the girl who'd walked down the aisle, blind with love. I was someone new, someone who knew her worth. After lunch, I walked alone to the park, the grass green under the spring sun. I sat on a bench, watching kids play, their laughter filling the air. My phone buzzed, a message from my mum. "I'm proud of you, Lily. You're free now." I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. She'd been worried, begging me to let go of the fight, but now she understood. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming myself. I thought about James, locked away, his fortune gone, his name a punchline. He'd tried to break me, but I'd risen above. I'd taken his wealth, his power, and turned it into my victory. But more than that, I'd found my freedom. Freedom to love again, to dream again, to live without his shadow. As the sun set, I stood, my heart light. The future was mine, and I was ready to claim it. One step at a time, one day at a time. I was Lily, and I was enough.